Welcome to APCUG's Wednesday workshops, where we get together in the middle of the week to learn more about technology. This is the third Wednesday of the month, which has traditionally been, for the last couple of years, our Linux Day. And that's going to continue today. We will not have a Linux meeting or workshop next month because of the holiday week. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I think if you've been with us before, you can hear or you can think that there's been a very evolving theme that I keep putting out by saying that there's no big deal to be running Linux. It's just another car. If you can drive one car, you can get in a rental car. I do that many times in the past, and you can drive it. Yeah, you might have to find, where does that dial? I can remember the first time I drove a rental car that didn't have the flip for the rear view mirror. And it was at nighttime, and I'm going, where's that button? Then I found out, oh, it self-changes. So, slight changes, but nothing that keeps you from driving that car. It still has the steering wheel, the brakes, the gas pedal, all the other stuff. And so my feeling is that running Linux is the same way. It has all the same parts. It's got an on-off switch. It's got a mouse that clicks, and that's what we're going to look at today when we take a look at what the Windows user might experience when they come through. Get this cleaned out. Get this other. There we go. Before we start, I've got some assumptions that I'm going to share. I'm not approaching this as a total new computer user, because if that's the case, then everything is equal. They don't know anything about Windows. They won't know anything about Linux, so that won't matter. But what we're doing today is that we're going to be talking about an experienced Windows users. Used both Windows 7 and 10, maybe played around a little bit of 11, skipped over 8. The experienced user knows how to use a mouse. And in my experience of teaching computer users, the mouse is one of the key, most important things I think they need to learn. And the three things that they need to understand about mouse use is that you can hover over something and it tells you something. You left click to select, and you right to select menus. And every computer user needs to know that. The assumption too is this person uses some cross-platform software. Obviously most of the browsers are all cross-platform. They might be using Thunderbird because in the old days they could have used Outlook Express, possibly using LibreOffice, maybe a program like VLC for their audio and video. And there might be a few other things that they've picked up over their years of using Windows that happen to be cross-platformed. I would also say that this person who's exploring Linux as a Windows user has worked with web apps. I don't know very few people who have not experienced using Google and their many different services or Microsoft's web, I guess it's Microsoft 365 now. They also need to be able to deal with their files and folders using a file manager. And most important is that this person is not going to be trying to be tricked into thinking they're using Windows. Because as we have pointed out over the last couple of years with our many different distros and the way that Linux has the ability to redesign things because of open source, we have versions of Linux that look like Windows 7 and act like Windows 7, look like Windows 10, and now, even can look like, Windows 11. So we're not trying to trick anybody into thinking they're still using Windows. We're going to actually take a look at Linux Mint and the Mate version, which is what a number of us use, and learn about what do we find is the same. What's the thing with this? So first off, because it's been a few minutes, the screensaver has locked the box up, and we just have to log in, and the person was told what the login is for. Oops, wrong computer. And the first thing I need to say to you is from the movie The Wizard of Oz, who said, "Don't pay any attention to the guy behind the curtain." I don't want you to pay any attention to the little icon that's up on the desktop in the top left-hand corner. I can't do anything about that. I don't really want to see it because it wouldn't be there. I'm doing a virtual because I wanted to start with a complete clean distro. So that's a part of the virtual box. And I tried to hide it. You can't hide it. I tried to change the name to say, ignore this, and it won't let you change the name. So I'm just telling you at the top, ignore that. Pretend that this is a totally clean, desktop. All right. So what we want to do now is, this is the new Windows user who's been told about, how easy it is to switch to Linux, because basically things are, kind of the same. So I'm going to sit here and take a look at this with you. And first off, I noticed right away, well, there's a desktop, and down at the bottom, toolbar. Okay, we've had toolbar. Now, the only thing I do have to mention is that normally in the Linux world, we call these panels and not toolbars. I'm not quite sure why, but it's a panel, like a thing across the screen. As I look at this toolbar at the bottom, I'm noticing there's a calendar, and I had a calendar on my Windows, and all I had to do was click on it to see the calendar. So if I click on it, I see the calendar. And this is just a traditional calendar, nothing about events. I can go month by month, year by year, and see whatever I want. So, okay, good. So calendar, just like I had before. Right next to it, there's my controls. As I'm hovering, it tells me this is my volume control. If I click on it, okay, volume control. Next to it, I've got my Ethernet. Lets me know I'm connected to the internet. Oh, and next to that is my update. So just like with Windows, or sometimes it pops up that there's an update, and if I click on it, it tells me I have an update. Now, interesting thing about the Linux Mint is that if there are multiple updates, I have the option of not doing it. That's different. In Windows, it's kind of like, well, you got to do them. But I can uncheck that. Also, Mint will tell you what kind of an update it is, whether it's a security update. This one happens to be a software update, or it might be a system update. And so you know exactly what each of the updates are, and you can change it. All right, we'll come back to that later. Let's see. Oh, next to that, system reports. I'm going to click on this one. And oh, this is telling me that I haven't set up. And notice that it's really telling me it needs to set up the backup system, which is the program called TimeShift. So it'll keep bugging me until I tell it to ignore this, and then that's my fault if I'm not backing up. I also have a system information. Okay, just like in Windows, I could go to About and find out everything about the computer. And so here I can find out everything, in fact, and even more. There's more information here in the system report than I would get in Windows with the system, the machine, CPU, graphics, about my audio, my network, my drives. So this is pretty good. This has got all the big system information that I would be needing to know about my computer. And I get a history of any crash reports. Let me see if I got any. Yep, there was a report or a crash when I was using last night the program called PIX. And I know that if I click on it, let's see what it tells me, if anything. So this is sort of like the notification that I find on the Windows taskbar. Guess it must have been nothing really important. Okay. When seeking help, check for existing bug reports. So if I understood all of this, I could try to figure out, but evidently there was a little problem. I think I had to close the program when I was doing that. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff to know. But as a Windows user and as a Linux user, most of the time I don't worry about that. They take care of that. All right, so system report. On the other side of the taskbar, I see icons. Those are my shortcut icons, just like I had in Windows. I know right away that that one's going to be my file manager because it's got a file folder there. Not quite sure what this black one is. I don't have one of these on there. Oh, this is for the terminal command line. I don't know anything about that, so I'm going to leave that alone. Oh, there's Firefox. There's my shortcut for my Firefox browser. And if I move over here, oh, okay. Windows had a button that you could click to hide all the windows and get back to the plain desktop. That way, if you're playing solitaire and the boss comes in, you can quickly click that. Well, and I'm guessing that over here on the far left corner, where I usually see the start button, there's a button called LM, but that's probably because this is Linux Mint. So if I click on that, oh, yep, okay, here's my menu. Forgot to change it back. This is what it would be like. And so this is interesting because this is the start thing I would see for Windows 11 with my favorites up here at the top. But over here on the left, there are some shortcut to locations that I would have found on my Windows 7 machine. Because there's my home folder, and there's my trash, get to the desktop, and there's my shutdown button, logging out. Oh, Control Center. Ah, that sounds familiar. I can remember using the Control Center for a long time. Not quite sure what Package Manager, and then Software Manager. And so just like in Windows 11, I see my favorites, but I can also click and get all applications. Now this is different. Here's where I see all of my programs in an alphabetical order, which is what I'm used to in Windows, but that always caused me a problem because sometimes I didn't know what program I wanted. But over here, we have categories. So a lot of Linux puts all of their software in categories. So if you're looking for something to do on the internet, well, there's the programs that go on the internet. If you're looking for graphics programs, or sound and video. Oh, and look at this. Not only does the program have a name, but it also tells me what it's for. There have been times in my Windows menus, I see a program and I going, wonder what that does. Oh, look at this. Watch TV on my Linux computer. So like having a streaming service. And then it breaks down into preferences, things that I can change for my use, things that are administrative, and system tools. Okay. Interesting. All right, we'll come back to that. Let's go back to the calendar because I have a problem. Over here on the far right, we are in, well, you won't know it for another 45 minutes, but we're in military time, and I can't handle that. It's bad enough I'm trying to figure out California time and Vegas time, but I wonder if I can make a change to that. And because of my Windows use, I know that I can right click on things and get menus. And when I look up here, oh, preferences. There I can, oh, interesting. I can copy the time and date to paste somewhere. But here are the preferences. Let's see what we go into. Very easy. Right there it is. Do I want 12-hour, 24? I want 12. I want the date to show on the screen, date and time. I don't care about seconds. Oh, and I don't care about the number of the week of the year. Show weather, show temperature. Okay. Now, if I go up here to locations, okay, well, let's add. I'm in Central Ohio, so I'm going to go NEWARK. Wrong keyboard again. Oh, and I start typing. Look at that. It figured out. Am I in New Jersey or in Ohio? I'm in Ohio. And it even finds the latitude and longitude. So if you ever really wondered what's the exact latitude, longitude, this program can tell you. All right, so I've got that in there. And if I weather, nope, I don't do centigrade. I need Fahrenheit. And I'm a miles per hour person. Okay. Now, if I close that up and I click back on and I go to locations, oh, there it shows me. And this is interesting. It also shows daylight, nighttime arc. And it showed that I could add more. So if I had other locations that I wanted to keep track, like keeping track of Judy's time in California, I could put her time in here. We had a niece that was spending a year in Africa. And so I had wherever she was here in Western Africa, so we could have an idea of time. And again, there's my edit button, so I could add anytime I wanted. Okay, so no big deal on there. Oh, let me right click on here. I'm going to right click because on the desktop, I found that you could right click. I can create a folder. So if I want to put a folder on the desktop, I can do that. I can create a document. An empty file. Interesting. This would be something that a Windows person might not understand, because in Linux, I can click this and create a file with nothing in it without having to open up a program to create a file and save it. And there's the same things. Okay, organize it. And oh, look at this. There's right where I had it. In Windows, I can change my background. So let's go ahead and change and see what we can do here in background. Sometimes the first time that it's loading up. There we go. And quite a lot of backgrounds. That sounds like a good one. Oh, that looks good. So I can add backgrounds. I can make it just a solid color, just like in Windows. I can go get more backgrounds, it says. Now, I'll tell you on the side that there are some Linux program or distros, or maybe desktops environments, that will let you put a different background on each workspace. Most of them, it's all the same. All right, so I'm going to close that. Oh, we can also go in here under themes, and this is where I can change the color. Mint by default is green, but I like colors. So let's look through here. How about a aqua? Okay, so I've changed it to an aqua. There's a blue if I wanted a darker blue. Now, if we look under fonts, there we go. I can change the size of fonts because I'm getting old. And so I'm going to, because I know about clicking to get something, and I'm going to make everything just a little bit larger. I'm not going to take time to find a font that I like better, but you can. I'll just do this. Okay. Interface. Wonder what this is about. Okay, show icons in the menu. That sounds good. If we have buttons, that you want to see the icons on the button. Under file chooser, show the size, type, directories first. Okay. Oh, here's the preview of how things would look. So I can get a lot of customizing that I might get in Windows. All right, so there's a nice background on that. All right, let's go back to, let's go back to our file manager. If I look on the left-hand side, I have all of my different main things, just like I would in Windows. Now, VBox happens to be my user. So normally, if you were setting up Linux, this would be your user, probably the name that you've given it. And that, to me, makes more sense than to have this called this PC, which is what you would get in Windows. But there's the same things I get access to in Windows, there's my documents, download, music, pictures, video, trash. Then it would have any devices connected. VirtualBox Guest Edition is added so I can do some things. And then the network. Now, if I go to help, because I've learned that help tells you about, this is a program called Kaja. It's the the file manager for the Mate desktop. One of the problems that Windows users do have, and I will admit that, is that we have options. Windows users have very little options, but Linux users, we have lots of options because of the open source. So we have a number of different versions of file managers, and they all have to have their own name because you can't have 6 or 7 programs all called file manager. You wouldn't know what you're doing. One file manager that the GNOME desktop uses is called Nautilus. And then somebody else said, well, we're going to change that, make it look a little better and work a little better to what we think it should. And they called that one Nemo. And most of us all know the 20,000 leagues that the Nemo was the captain of the Nautilus. So there are a lot of these fun little words that with names, but that's the thing. A different file manager, the devices might be first, and then the computer files or folders next. It doesn't hurt to have more than one file manager on your computer, and then you can go back and forth and really decide the one that you are most comfortable with. Okay, so just like when I look in Windows, I'm in my home directory. There's all my folders. And, you know, if I click on my folders, there are pictures. And if I double click on the pictures, just like in Windows, it opens right up into the program that shows pictures. That's, wow. I don't even know what program it is. If I go up to help, about, this is a program called X Viewer, X because of Linux Mint. But I'm seeing, just like I would, I just double click and there it is. So I can close that out. I can also right click and do the same thing I did in Windows. There's the open with the default program, but I also get an open with something else. There's another image viewer. This one had 2 image viewers. I can also cut, copy, move to the trash, delete. Usually in my work, I hide this button, delete, because this is unrepairable for the most part. So I usually turn that off. So I put stuff in the trash, and then when I don't want it anymore, I can do it out of trash. Okay. Edit. Viewing. See, I've learned the menus. Just go through the menus to read what those are like. Now, if I do that first picture and I open it with the image viewer, it shows it in its normal size. So it was a very small picture. So I'd have to go in and change the size. But this one, this is interesting. I see a paintbrush. Oh, this is my program that I can do editing. I can do some color changes. I can do some rotating. I can do some, oh, down here, resize it. I can do a cropping. So this is my photo editing program. Came right with it. Now, in this file manager, I can see the path that I'm following or I could get here. So I can click on VBox to go back to my home. If we go to music, here I have some music files. If I double click on it, so I have a music program. Okay, so it looks as though that everything that I need to do anything is here. All right, let me go back to my folder, go into documents. Nope, PDF. Double click on it. And there it is. It opens right up to my PDF reader, which happens to be X Reader. Okay, so that's the family of programs are all X programs that have been included. But there's my reader, so I have everything I need. I got my PDF. I got my music. Oh, what I didn't check was my video. Let's go back. See my video. I got a video.
Ray, I don't know. Are you sure clicking this thing will get us online?
Well, try dragging it. Here's the problem. We forgot to plug it in.
Oh, don't even think about it.
All right, so I've got the stuff for videos, music, documents. So I'm set. And I can go back to my home directory, and like I know how to do, if I do a right click, I can create new folders. So if I wanted another folder, as I do, I always have a screenshot folder because I don't want to have to go to pictures to find it. There's a create button. All right, so we're back at the desktop, and going back to our programs, remember, there's my favorites, and I can add more to the favorites, I think. But if we go like to the Office, you can see that the whole LibreOffice suite's there. So I have everything I need to do in productivity tools, including a program that keeps track of what I've recently opened. Okay. Sound and video, we were there. Celluloid is what was playing that movie. Rhythm Box was what was probably playing the music. And, oh, there's my sound to change all the sounds on that. If we look at graphics, I have a document scanner. If I had a document machine scanner hooked up, it would show up there. There's a drawing program, and there's that viewing and organizing images. And then there's a whole bunch of accessories and different tools in here. Now, let's say though that I want, if I go to the internet, oh, there's Firefox. So we'll go ahead and, well, there's the same Firefox I've been using. So there's no big deal here. So that's not going to be a problem coming to Linux because there's Firefox. But then what if I want something else? So let's go and take a look at this software manager. And this will take a second to generate the first time. And take a look at what the software manager, which would be the equivalent of probably Microsoft Store. And the reason it's taking a while is that there are a lot of programs there. So it takes a little extra to get started. Should be about done. There, it slows down. Finish out. Come on. And then one small problem would be different is using a virtual machine, having to go through the virtual machine to get to my machine to get to the internet to get download stuff. There we go. Okay, let's see, what do we have here? Oh, a little ad. Okay, recommending something. Here are featured ones. And then down here are all the categories for finding more software. And then they have some top rated ones. Okay, and we've got Firefox already. But let's say, let's say we want a different browser because I'm used to using in Windows Chrome. Oh, categories, web, email, chat. Okay, I'm going to subcategory to the web. And let's go for CHROME. Wrong keyboard. And there's Google Chrome. So I click on Google Chrome. All right, I paused the screen sharing. There we go. Trying to hit another thing out of the box. And I want to install that. There needs to be a few other things installed. And this will just take a minute. The software manager also gives you a lot of information. But this one's interesting. This is not created by Google. This is a flat pack. And going back to excellent presentations that we've had with Cal, he talked all about the container software, which for the Mint is the flat packs, and the snaps for the Ubuntu. And so just about done. So it's very easy to install more programs. There's just a whole big slew of programs that are in the software manager. So that's nothing different than going to maybe to Microsoft Store and getting software there. Just about done. One of the things that's nice about this is with this software manager, you can go back and pick something else because you don't have to wait until one program is installed before installing another one. All right, we'll come back to that in a second. But I want to go back again and take a look at this control center. That goes back to our Windows 7 days, and we always liked the control center. So I'm going to open that up, make it full screen so it, and you can see again, like in Windows, there was the option that Windows had that it could be alphabetical or in categories, and I never liked it in alphabetical because, or categories back then, because I couldn't figure out where something I wanted. But here are the categories for all the things that you can do to control your computer. And Mint is one of the ones that has a large number of choices. There are some distributions that don't give you as many choices to customize your computer. So here's all the administrative things, which will require administrative approval to change. There's all things for hardware. There's where we were partly in appearance. We were there to get our backgrounds. Screensaver, they still have screensavers. Windows kind of got rid of those. I'm going to come back to the part later. And oh, they're for your preferred applications, so you can pick which programs you want to automatically start up when you click a file. And then here's what programs you can have start up. And we had that in Windows. To me, a control panel putting all this in easy reach really has benefits. All right, launch the Google Chrome and say, yep. And if you sign into Chrome, you can go that way. And I'm not going to sign in. And remind me later. Just like what I was doing in Windows, there's the same Google Chrome that you have, the same Gmail, all the same programs. So if you're a Google person in Windows, they're all here. So there's nothing to be different about, coming to use this. And if I do this, wrong keyboard. And for those people who were Microsoft users, here's your Microsoft program. All you have to do is sign in, and you have all of the web-based Office apps. So there's really no kind of a problem switching over, because there they all are. Access to your your Microsoft OneDrive is there, all your files. So that's not going to be any kind of a difference. And if I go back to my internet, you'll see that now I've got Google Chrome added to here. Trying to think what, oh, Thunderbird Mail, like I said before, if you use Thunderbird, or in the old days Outlook Express, then all you have to do is connect with the email that you're using. If you're using Microsoft Outlook's mail, no problem there. You just go and sign in and get it. I did notice that they're making a big change coming in the next couple months. Everybody's going to go to the new Office Outlook mail program instead of what's out there right now. All right, I'm going to go back to update. Got an update. So I know that it's a software update, provides firmware used by the kernel, which is the guts of it. And I can just hit install updates. Of course, because as in Windows, this is something that's going to affect the computer as a whole. So there has to be a password administrative okay. Now, the one thing we've learned about updates with Linux is that Linux updates everything in the background, and normally, except for rare cases of a big kind of update, no rebooting of the computer is needed. If a program needs updating and you're using that program, it waits until you stop using it, and they update it. Then when you open it up again, you've got the newest version. So a lot of it's in the background. So two things good about the update manager. One, you have complete control over what updates you do. And two, it's all done in the background, not requiring reboot except for if it was like a Linux kernel thing. Okay. Trying to think. Anything else that a Windows user would be carrying over. And I'm hoping you see that as a Windows user, I'm able to switch over to Linux and do just about everything I had been doing. Might be something with a different name like Kaja instead of the generic file manager, but that's because when you have options, you've got to have different names. I have the software manager that lets me add tons of software. Excuse me. All right, we'll come back to you. What else is there that's okay? There we go, done. And it will recheck and see if there's anything new. I have my system set because you could go into your settings and say if it's security updates, go ahead and do those in the background because I know I want them because I want to be secure. And so it's up to date, and the icon even changed a little color down here that says it's up to date. Okay. And because I had logged in, right now I'm still a admin user, but I can click this and turn that off, but it's also going to turn off automatically on a timer. Okay, I don't think anything else in here. Oh, I know. Somebody had asked, so I'll go ahead. If I had a real operating system connected with my hard drive, and then I can go to administration. Normally, if I had a printer connected to my computer, it would already be there. If not, you would just hit the add button and it would look out for what's connected. Now I'm going to be curious to see, look at that. I'm on a virtual machine and my Linux has found my brother printer that's over across the room. And that's the reason it didn't get it right away, was because that's the network printer and not directly plugged in. But normally, if you have a printer, it's going to show up. Now, I'm not going to say 100% of the time, because there are thousands of models of printers, because we have a number of different manufacturers, and the manufacturers have many model variations for however they sell them. I've learned that they'll sell one model to this store and they sell the exact same printer with a different number to a different store. So they play that big game. And so as you can see here, and there's my printer. There's the brother one. I'm listening across the room. Waiting for it to pick up. Oh, it's unable to locate it. So there's something wrong with the my networking setup, but that's another issue, is networking. But I don't have that problem on a real machine. I think it's the virtual machine. Oh, probably because of the fact that I'm inside a virtual machine, I haven't given permission for the virtual box to access outside my virtual box. It says it may not be connected. Well, that's because you don't have permission for it. Okay. Judy, I think I'm going to pause right here in case there are some Windows users with some, general questions. And I'll leave it here so that I can get back to it real easy if there's something I need to show.
Does the document scanner use Wi-Fi?
I don't have I'd have to look on my regular one because I have both. The brother printer has a scanner bed, and I have one that's connected. So I would imagine that it would if you have one that's set up the right way.
Okay. I was wondering how to find a compatible version of Edge browser for the version of Linux that is loaded on my computer.
To my knowledge, Edge is coming out for Linux.
Oh, who knew?
Not me. Oh,
I have it installed. You just
yeah,
go.
that's who I knew it from. Yeah, so they finally decided that maybe they'll get more Linux users to get into the Microsoft, but yeah, it's now coming out as a
Go to the
application.
Edge website, and at the bottom of the page it says there are versions available for Linux.
Yeah. So if there's some reason you would want it, you can have it.
And someone says I have Edge installed on most of my Linux Mint computers. So that person has more than one. And that is all I have. You want to open it for Q&A, because I see Stephanie has her hand raised.
Yeah, let me open that up so I can. I have to be able to get to the other screen.
Oh, why do you prefer mate and not cinnamon?
I like the setup. It's actually part of it's from the old Edge. The mate is based on the original GNOME desktop, which was GNOME 2. And that I grew up in. I like the way they divide up the menu. You know, when you look at this one, Mate has all of your places in one spot, all of your system in another spot, and applications in the other. In the original days, there were 3 drop down from your menu bar. One said places, one said system, and one said applications. And so I like it this way. I like it because I can have a huge number of favorites here. In Cinnamon. You have to have a limited, because this box can only get so big. It's everything's a personal preference. As most of you should know, Orv loves KDE. I think KDE is great. It's, to me, at times too overpowering, because I'm going to show you something later. It has so much. Some people are in love with the GNOME desktop, and Cinnamon is just Mint's way of saying GNOME desktop is good, but we can make it better. And I can have the Cinnamon desktop on here if I wanted it, if I liked it, but I like this one better. And it's just a big preference. Okay, I'm still trying to get.
And another question is, what is the definition of distro?
The distro is the manufacturer. It would be the same as the car manufacturer, only would have a shorter word for that. A distro is where a company takes all the parts and puts it together, just like a car. They take all the frames, the engine, the seats, whatever, they put it all together and it comes out as a car. So that's what the distribution is. It's the company that does it. All right, I've got to, I know what I got to do. I got to take this out of full
And
screen.
then we're going to go over to Stephanie before I ask you the 4 questions I have in the chat box.
Okay. I don't see your hand up. There it is. There we go.
I see Stephanie, she has palm trees in her background.
Yeah, I've hit the button so she can turn it on.
You're
Okay. One of our members has bought a Linux designed for seniors, and its instructions say that they can only connect with HP printers. Is that a problem generally? She has a couple of other printers by other manufacturers.
I'm not quite sure. My guess is they're saying that because, and rest of my team would pop in and agree with that, and they can, that the HP is the most universal printer company. Almost every HP is pretty much guaranteed, but not 100%, to work with Linux. I've never had anybody that's told me, unless they have a very, very strange model of a HP, it works. I have used HPs with no problem. I'm using a Brother with no problem. I had a Canon that didn't work the greatest, but I found a driver that worked with that. So I'm thinking that they're saying that because if they tell them just use HP, they're probably not going to have any problem. But I would think that they could use, a Brother, a Canon. Epson might be there in that same line, but the HP, Brother, usually no problem.
Okay, thank you. We at least can try the ones she already has before purchasing another one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Correct.
Stephanie, is this one of those AARP recommended computers that are weird?
Probably.
Okay.
She said she got it from AARP
Yeah.
advertisement.
It would have been so much better if she had just bought a simple Windows computer. Trust me. I've tried to teach people how to use those, and everything is so proprietary. It's incredible. You need to do what they say.
Well,
Yeah.
the problem is that she had recently purchased a Windows 11, or maybe 10 or 11 program, Windows Pro thing, and she couldn't deal with it, so she wanted a simpler one.
Okay. But again, if they're proprietary, you only talk to them. You don't ask anybody else anything.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what I'm hoping is showed you today is that, and I'm really happy. I found the receipt for this laptop I've got. This laptop that I'm using right now is 10 years old. And it responds very well. I've been using it, like I said, for 10 years. And as a Windows computer, probably would not be running very well. It probably would not be running 11 for sure, and may not even be running 10. But it is still going strong with that. And it's pretty much got the same kind of controls, and you do the same things that I was on Windows. And hopefully you saw, well, there's nothing really hard about using Linux.
Yeah, she could turn her Windows 11 computer into a Linux machine. And then she could ask people for help.
That would be true.
Well,
Trust me,
our members don't know much about Linux machines, so I'm not sure what that'll work, but we'll see.
Okay. How often does a new version of Linux Mint come out? And how long is a version supported for updates?
That is a great question. We have different cycle. That's not the word I used before. Different cycling years. We have some that come out every 6 months with a new version. We have some that come out every minute with a new version. It's called a rolling release. And that way, the minute something new comes out, you're going to get it. So your computer is new. Those kind of distributions you install once and never reinstall it because it's always adding updates. On the other side, sometimes those updates aren't tested enough and your computer crashes, and then you have to really work hard. Most of the people like what we call long-term support, LTS, and they can go anywhere from 3 to 5 years. The Mint that I've got right here, this is a 5-year extended support. So it could go for 5 more years. It came out last year. Ubuntu now has a paid version. Remember, Linux is free, but they have a paid version for enterprise that will now provide 10 years worth of updates for enterprise. You know, us home users, that, you know, you don't really need that. So we can go anywhere from always updated once or twice a year up to 3 to 5 times a year. I mean, 3 to 5 years, not 5 times a year. And so you pick what you like. I used to do it in the beginning. I did it every 6 months. And then after a while, I'm going, you know, this is getting tiresome. And so I switched to long-term and I usually switch 2 years or 4 years, depending on what new features come out. Again, I always talk about cars. Cars come out every year. And when you look at a car that you have and look at the new car, you have to decide, does it have the features that I really want to give up this car that's still working? Or do I want to wait till next year's car that comes out and see how those features are? So I think it's the same way with Linux. With Windows, you don't have the choice. They tell you when the new one's coming out. And I've heard the rumors that 12's coming out. So that was another second lie. 10 isn't going to be the only one you ever buy. So, yeah, you got those choices.
Okay, this is from me. How do you find out what is coming out in the next revision or update and to choose whether you want to do it or not?
When it comes out, just like with a car, you go and read up and they'll tell you when we have updates. There are in between year updates. I'm running 21.2. So this is the second update since the 21 came out. I tell people, see what the features are and see if there's anything you really like. A lot of people stay at the 21 for 5 years. They don't even go up to the 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. Other people can skip over. They'll say, oh, nothing much now. But the next time they'll say, oh, there's some extra things I like. So they will tell you what the new features are, and then you can go from there.
How do I load a utility that is not a package, not in the repository?
Well, there are ways to load it if you are really willing to risk something that might not be tested for this. It's like adding a part to a car that wasn't guaranteeing manufactured parts. That's a little bit beyond what the average Windows user looking Linux, but you can go out onto the internet and you can download the software that has to be built or something. But we caution people that if it's not in the repository, then you might not know whether it's really compatible with your computer. You might install it and crash your computer.
Thank you. Do you need antivirus software such as Norton 360? Not Norton 360. Personal comp.
Yeah. On Linux, no. The nature of most of the viruses will not run on Linux. They're starting to get some. As a home user, I don't worry very much about it at all. Oh, wake up, computer. And where the concern for Linux and antivirus is the server. And because that's running the world. What a lot of people don't realize is the world runs on Linux servers. The desktop kind of runs on, Microsoft Windows. So the people are attacking the servers, but because of open source, it's easy to find when somebody is trying to stick something in. It gets taken care of. Majority of the times when there's a problem with the Linux and hackers and stuff, it can be traced back to a human error. Somebody wasn't updating something. Somebody didn't lock something up. Somebody carried a thumb drive where they weren't supposed to. At home, there is a virus program for Linux that I might use if I'm passing something on from somebody to somebody else. And I want to make sure that I'm not passing on a virus to a Windows user. And it's called Clam AV. And I can do just what we do with the other virus programs. I say, scan this file, folder, hard drive for viruses, and it goes out and gets the same information and runs that. But on a normal basis, I've been using Linux for many, many years. I've not had any virus problems. The only kind of problems I have is when I play around with the computer too much and I crash it.
At past workshops, we've learned that dual booting is with, I know, because come on, Windows and Linux is not recommended. So
True.
what do you recommend? WSL2 or a hypervisor like Proxmox?
We're getting any very detailed. First off, dual booting wasn't so bad years ago. Microsoft and the BIOS and UEFI, they have caused the problem. A number of us don't recommend that because updates to Windows can cause problems that affect both. Our recommendation is using some kind, if you need to keep using Windows, you can run Linux in Windows in a virtual, like I'm running a virtual Mint on my Mint. And there's a number of, we weren't going to get into details about which one to do. We need to have some people volunteer to do presentations on virtual machines of the different kinds. Cal did a fantastic presentation. We did a whole workshop saying, find yourself a used computer and put Linux on it. And now you got two computers. You got your Windows to use Windows and your Linux to use Linux. As I said, this laptop is 10 years old and it's running fine. So a lot of, if your computer clubs do refurbishing or recycling, get something that somebody doesn't want anymore that's like 5 years, 6 years old, put Linux on it, run it for a while longer.
A comment, you can use tabs in the file manager.
There's a lot more we could talk about in File Manager, especially with some of the Linux file managers that have dual panes that make it so easy to move files and whatever. I do want to comment too, because I skipped over it, but somebody commented that right now the weather in this this calendar is kind of not working right. Normally, there would be an icon right beside it with your weather and your temperature, but something has happened inside the calendar one. I have my own separate one where I have a weather applet, or that has my weather on it, that tells me what's going on.
Can you recommend a good OCR program for Linux?
I don't do it, so I wouldn't. I don't know if Cal or has a recommendation, but they're out there. The problem is the more you pay for it, the better it's going to be. If you go for a free OCR, it's going to, be whatever. But they're out there. I just haven't looked for them because I don't need one.
Yeah, they're generally only moderately good. You have to really pay money for use Google. That's the best.
Go search and find best OCR for Linux.
Google will do it.
The latest version of Linux Mint as of February 2023 is 20.1 Vera. Okay. And
Nope. 21.2 Vanessa.
Right.
Okay.
And that one will be supported until April 2027.
Yeah.
Could
And
you
there-
go to the appearance and customize, which gives more features and how things can look? And one comment is updates occur almost daily. Can you back up the computer using Acronis? You go to ugr7.com and see if it supports Linux.
When we talk about those kinds of things, I use other programs. I use pCloud to back up all my files. I use Clonezilla to do the image backup. What a lot of people don't know is that all of your backup programs like that for images are all Linux programs anyway. You just put it in your computer and it'll run in the background because it's booting off of that machine. And the reason we know that is that when we were using some of those programs like Acronis or ASUS or whatever, you can find that it puts a Linux folder on your computer. It's like a hidden one. And people wonder, where did this Linux come from? Well, that's because the program is. Linux can read Windows computers. You can boot to Linux, and you can't boot up to Windows for free. So those programs are Linux programs to begin with. So we all have our favorite ones to do. Here's the appearance thing, and we saw that it had the theme, but you can customize the theme, and this is where you can go crazy, because these are just the controls that you see at the top, your main controls, open or minimize, maximize stuff, and you have all of these different color choices, dark ones, light colored ones, middle sized ones. Here are the borders that go around your windows, and you have all of these choices. Here are the icon sets that you can choose, like the folder colors, and even the pointers. Look at all the different pointers that I can pick from in Mate that I want. I can pick different kind of pointers, and I can even size them. So you can do a lot of custom designing for your themes, for your appearance of your computer. And as Cal would say, and if you did KDE, you probably even have more than that to choose from.
Okay, last question.
Okay, and then we have Dale with a hand up too.
This is Dale's question.
Oh, okay.
I have many business docs on Windows, Word, Excel, et cetera. Can these be transferred to a Linux program? And yes, that's.
No, the answer is no.
No?
It can be transferred to LibreOffice.
Yes.
because LibreOffice isn't a Linux program, it's a cross-platform program. So you can open up. I did that for years when I was teaching. At school, we had Microsoft. At home, I had LibreOffice. I would make documents at school, take them home, take them, and I would make them at home and then take them back to school. I will have to say that if you are a high level techie Office user and do crazy things, there's not 100% compatibility, but that's Microsoft's doing. They don't want you to be able to have good compatibility. I never had any problems with what I switched back and forth because I didn't go into crazy stuff. There's another program that's a version of LibreOffice called OnlyOffice, which claims to be better at compatibility between Microsoft files.
And
So-
I am not a fancy person when it comes to Word or Excel. And I go back and forth all the time. I get, documents from John, their ODTs, etc., and everything converts back and forth. And it's like same thing with Google Docs. They are interchangeable as far as I'm concerned, except I can use the Google Docs PowerPoint type presentation. Is there any way to save the chat? I can save it and send it to you, whoever you are.
Yeah, that's what we usually do, because the questions all go to Judy. Judy goes through the questions, and then
John
she,
reminds me 13
yeah,
times
to save them.
that.
And then she sends out the chat. So whatever goes into chat is mostly going to Judy for questions. And then she can then pass them on. She usually passes them on to presenters for answers, and then
Right, this will get
and
sent to nobody because all the questions have been answered because John's going to close the chat box.
now we're going to
So
move
if
to the next
you want
part.
to get a copy of the chat, send me an email and I'll send it to you raw.
Okay. So I hope that that's done that one. The notes. That new users have got a good feeling. When I did this at my club, I had a couple people say that really helped, because they do now see that, it's basically, it's a car. And the same thing for Apple users. We do the same thing. We've got mouse clicks, we've got this and that. So hopefully you can see that it's a very easy transition. You will notice that I never once spoke about the terminal and the command line, because you do not have to use that at all in Linux. It's the same way. Most of the Windows people never use the terminal that's in Windows. Many people don't even realize there's a terminal in Windows, because you don't have to use it. Everything's there for you. It's just when you learn how the terminal can help you do some things faster and easier. All right, so we're going to switch now.
I have
And
my hand raised.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the.
I didn't have time.
Yeah.
I loved your thing like control panel because it's logical.
Yes.
And especially because it's in alphabetical order, but it's just logical when you take it off categories and things just jump out at you and your muscle memory says, just click over here. That's what I want. It's just everything's in your face. Back to you.
Okay. The next thing for users, and this really applies to Windows users too, because this is not just a Linux thing, but we're talking Linux about how much it helps. And I've got a thing up here. We're going to talk about keyboard shortcuts to make you more of a power user. We have forgotten if you were a computer user back in the days, you probably used a computer before the mouse. And so you didn't have a mouse that you could move around the screen and click here and click there. You had a keyboard and you did everything off the keyboard. And we've gotten away from that because the mouse makes it so much easier to click and click. But we've also found out that it takes time. You have to move your hand off your keyboard, find the mouse, find the little arrow, move the arrow to where you want, get your hand back over to your keyboards to move on. And there are so many keyboard shortcuts that you could use to keep your hands right where they are and do things that really make you a power user. You don't have to be a computer guru. I'm just talking about somebody who can do things faster. And what you do is you can find out that there are some keyboard shortcuts already in your computer. And most of us know from our, if you've taken a computer class, in a word processing class especially, we learned about cut, copy, and paste. We know there's a drop-down menu that says cut, copy, and paste. And somebody has taught you that if you want to do it easier, you can use the keyboard shortcuts of, Control X, C, and V for cut, copy, and paste. Okay, there are a lot more that you can do to make your life easier and work quicker. If we go and do a search, because this is the next big thing that I tell people, forget menus. Forget this list of applications. Make the computer do the work for you. There's a search box. I want the keyboard shortcuts. Wrong keyboard. K-E-Y. And right there, it pops up and says, do you want keyboard shortcuts, the onboard keyboard, or passwords and keys? Well, because I just typed key. So right there it is, keyboard shortcuts. Keyboard shortcuts are pretty much designed with your desktop environment, not your distro. Now, if we talk about that again, we're talking about the distro is what puts everything together. One of the options that we've talked about for the past number of years is that we have desktop environments, which to me are like car models, the difference between a 2-door and a 4-door and a convertible and a sedan and an SUV. They're the same, but they have difference. And the different desktop environments have pieced together different things. So I'm going to show you that the keyboard shortcuts are different, even in Mint. We have Mint Cinnamon, Mint Mate, and Mint XFCE. And the keyboard shortcuts are different on all three, or the design of them. But basically, go find your keyboard shortcuts. And as we look through this one, and again, this one has not been, this is a brand new one, you'll find that some of the shortcuts are already set up. Like the, screenshots. We've been talking about taking screenshots. In Linux, most of the time, you just hit the print button on your keyboard and it takes a screenshot. In Windows, we got to do the Windows print, and then we get that. But you can see that. If you want to do a terminal, the standard is hold down the Control, Alt, and the T. Just like we know the Control, Alt, Delete brought up the task menu thing in Windows. Some of these are not active. You can see where some of them are disabled, and some of them are generic in that it doesn't do anything. It just says calculator, mail, messenger. A shutdown, Control, Alt, Delete. So these are all ones that you can use. I don't know all of these. What I do know are the ones that benefit me. But what I usually do is I make my own custom ones to do what I want to do, so I don't have to do a lot of mouse stuff. But you can see that if you have multiple workspaces, you can code it so that you can quickly move from one workspace to another. On my computer, I have the workspace on my taskbar, and so I can click between those. But you can go down through here and see that there are tons not set up. There's some for your sounds. That one was from your Windows movements and things on your desktop. In Linux world, mod is the key with the 4 little white squares that look like a wavy window. In Linux, we call that the super key or the mod key. And so you can use that as a change. So let's say, for example, what I want to do. I have Chrome up here installed on this computer now. So in my way of working things, I use 3 different browsers or 2 different browsers for emailing purposes and calendar. I keep all of my APCUG email, calendar, Zoom in one browser. And I have my personal stuff in a different browser. And I have customized the browser like you can do so that when my browser pops up, it pops up with 4 tabs. One tab will be my email. One will be APCUG2. Everybody should go to that. I have the user group listing service so I can find out information about groups. And then I have Zoom. So every time I open up that browser, those 4 things are automatically there. And so now I can do this. And what I'm going to do is for my purposes, I'm going to call this my oops, wrong keyboard again. I'm going to call this APCUG. And I'm going to do, see if this works right, CHROME. And well, let's check that. I can tell you which one I want. Where's, okay, Google Chrome. And then I hit apply. So now I have APCUG. It's disabled. I'm going to click on the little disabled, and I'm going to say my shortcut to get to APCG is going to be the Super Alt A key, or they call it Mod 4. And then I'm going to close that. Now I'm going to do Super Alt A, and it'll pop up Chrome. You're supposed to pop up Chrome, Super Alt A. Doesn't always work. Let's go back and see what I did wrong. Back to KEY. And here's another thing I forgot to mention in that. If I right click on any program, I have options for it. And so because I use the keyboard shortcuts a lot, I'm going to put the keyboard shortcuts in my favorites. So now I can come here and get my keyboard shortcuts. All right, let's go down to the bottom. Well, that's got it there. Okay, close it. Aha. Part of the problem is VirtualBox. I've run into that before, that some of the commands that my keyboard is doing are not going through to this one. So I'm going to have to do it this other way. I'm going to have to Control Home to shrink this out. No, I do it that way. So the problem is that, and this happens too, like with the Zoom, that if you're in Zoom, certain keys are being controlled by Zoom and you can't use them in your window. So I'm going to go back, and this is now my regular computer. If I do Control Alt A, it's going to pop up Chromium, because I use Chromium. I don't use Chrome. I've used the open source. And you can see that by customizing it, it pops up right away. If I want my personal email and calendar, that's Proton. So I set mine up from Control Alt P for Proton, and that's going to pop up my Brave browser, which has a control, or has my Proton, and it'll have my calendar. So a lot of these shortcuts can speed up your work. I also have it set up so I can do Control-Alt-F and bring up Firefox without having to go to any menu or anything like that. I also have my Gmail, and Gmail is my Thunderbird. So I coded it to be my code with a G for Gmail. So I can quickly open up these 3 different programs and have access to all my stuff real quick with just these keyboard. And you can do them for a lot of other things that you want. All you have to do is go in and say, I want this program set up with this keyboard. And so I have a number of those set up, and you know, it'll solve your speed problem. You know, you'll be working a lot faster and keeping your hands on your keyboard and moving those out. Now, what I want to show you is I have to go back to the virtual box because I put the slideshow there. And I want to be able to show you that they're not all the same. So you've seen what the program looks like in Mate. You have a lot of preset ones that aren't active. You just have to go in and say, oh, I want to use that particular keyboard shortcut, and I want to use these key commands. But we can go and look and see that here's GNOME. We've talked about the GNOME desktop environment. And when you pop it up, you have to go to the settings, and then you go down to keyboard. And then at the bottom of the keyboard menu, there is your view and customize shortcuts. They show you some categories similar to what I had, but you have to open up a category. And I think on this one, I did the launcher. Yeah. And under launcher, oh, that's what I forgot. On my computer, if I want to open up my file, Windows has some of these already set up that you can use to get to your file manager. And I just do Super F for file, and it pops up my manager. Windows has it with the, I think it's the Super E key. But so what you do is you come in here, you click on which of these you want to change. And for example, like if I did my launch my email client, I would click on that and say, I want to use Super Alt G to start up my email program, which is Thunderbird. You can make a custom one like I was doing, just give it a name, the command that you would need, and then set what the shortcut's going to be. So pretty much very similar to what we do. Somebody was asking about Cinnamon, and it's just it's a personal preference. Cinnamon's good. It's their flagship. Mint developed Cinnamon. It's their baby. But I just kind of like what I see in the Mate. So here you'd go to your keyboard, and then you got your shortcuts in the middle. I clicked on launchers again, and they give you the categories for what shortcut you want. And then you pick that, and then you say, okay, launch my email. And I did Alt Super G or Super Alt G, doesn't matter. And that's going to open up Thunderbird. And there's custom, and like this one, I said I want to do my Proton, and so I want my browser, so that I set it up to be Brave, and then it opens up with Alt Super P, brings up my Proton mail. XFC is the third one of the family in Mint, but this also would be the same one you'd find if you did any kind of distribution or Linux version that was an XFCE. And again, if you go to keyboard, they give you the shortcuts. This one to me was a little bit harder to work with because they have the commands written. And you can see down here on the side that, you know, the XFC pop-up whiskers menu. This one, you know, a lot of people like it because you can, you know, customize and understand it. But this, you have to know what it's going to do. This is going to pop up the menu with the super and L for your list of programs. And so if they have one, you can change the key or you can add new ones. And you can see right here that if I double clicked on the, does this one have? Oh yeah, up at the top it has the mail. If I double clicked on it, it would say, okay, what keyboard shortcut do you want to use for it? And you can use any that you want, providing it's not being used by some other thing. Like we all know that for some reason, we can't use Control-Alt-P for paste, which is what would make sense. Cut, copy, paste. But we already set that up for Control-Alt-P to be Control-P to be your printer. So that's why they went with V, because V is right next to X and C on your keyboard. So cut, copy, paste. And I always tell people the V means VUP, put it right there, VUP. And so that's XFC. Now here's Orv's favorite, KDE, and it is even bigger with choices and options. When you come to the shortcuts, you'll see that they have it by application services, a lot the way the menu is. And then if you click on, for example, Dolphin is the file manager, it's already set up for Super E, which is like with Windows, Super Explorer. But if you wanted to change it to make more sense, because I want it to be F for file, you could change it to F the file. You can also, so there's where I changed it. I changed it from Super E to Super Alt F to keep my pattern of what I'm going to do. You can also choose a program. Thunderbird wasn't listed, so I went to the list of programs, picked Thunderbird, and then said, here's the custom shortcut I'm making for it. These aren't just for programs. They can bring up menus. They can do other actions. You just have to go into your different program and see. And there are other slightly different variations of a keyboard shortcut menu based on a different desktop environment. You know, we've got the desktop environment for, brain's gonna go dead on this one, Bungie, and we've got a different one that's for maybe the Chinese one. Oh, Deepin. So you just have to kind of check into those. Questions on keyboard shortcuts, Judy? Where'd mine go?
Looking. What does super mean in Super E?
Super means that key that you guys call Windows. We call it super key or mod key. In Apple, it's open Apple, close Apple. You know, that was what they had. But it's the fourth key, because, you know, we have a shift key was the original change key, went from lowercase to uppercase. Then we added the control key and the alt key, and then we added the super key. So, you know, you have 4 different buttons that can work one key to make different kind of keyboard shortcuts and combinations of those. So the E was what was set up for Explorer, and so that's the one. But to me, it was better to file manager F. I chose F.
Oh. I do not see any. Do we still have? Don't we have a shortcut key sheet?
You might.
I thought I sent you one. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah, they're the big long list. Yeah,
I have no questions.
good.
The
Well,
most interesting one was the Super E.
okay. Yeah, and that's just the name that we call that key. We do have the ability that we have little stickers like with penguins that we can stick on that key instead of having windows if we wanted to. Just for fun on that.
That would be cuter than having a sticker with a W.
Yeah, it would.
Love the
So
little-
just, my recommendation is, now that you know about keyboard shortcuts, check out what you have, and Windows has the same thing. You got to go find your shortcut program and see what they have and start making use of them, because I can save a lot of work when I'm doing my opening up stuff by doing the keyboard, because I can get all my different email programs up in just almost three quick clicks with the Alt G, A, and P for my Google and my APCUG and my Power. I also have some other ones that go with mine where I can open up a program to search for files. I don't have to go and click the menu and then type it in. I don't know if I've got it still set up. Yeah, no, I don't have it set up on that, but you can pop up just a little box and then type into that and have the computer find the program that you're using on that. All right. The third part is for the people a little advanced or a little bit have been using maybe command line. And we might have mentioned this a little bit, but I wanted to go into the detail for people to get started using this if you are going to be using the terminal, and that's with the idea of aliases. Now I'm going to go back to.
Before you start
Yep.
that, Kevin Beauregard had a question.
Oh, good, Kevin. Hi. Looking for his hand.
Oh, he put it down when you started talking,
Oh, okay.
but it's undoubtedly about what you
There
talked
it is.
about. There
Kevin.
we go. He had two hands up.
You should be able to
Okay,
unmute.
now, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, John, I'm really enjoying this. This is really good stuff. But that's okay. That you would take out of the right-click menu the delete option. Is it okay to ask a question about that?
Sure.
Okay, you said you remove delete from the right-click menu because it's unrepairable, and so is there a delete in Linux that just throws things in the trash bin?
The one that says
Move to trash?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, and then-
If I right click, there's move to trash and there's delete, but I can go into the preferences of the menu and say, don't show the delete, because it's right next to each other. And sometimes you hit one and you don't want to delete it forever. So that's why I do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you. And then
Kevin, you hit your mic, I believe, and it's going in and out.
a long time. I knew
It's part of the Wi-Fi too.
Well, yeah, but I heard a clunk before he started talking.
Yeah, we're losing most of your words, Kevin.
Yeah, put it in the chat box. Let your fingers do your talking.
okay, I will do that.
Now you're better, but
Okay, well, let's try it. I've been a Word user for a long time. I knew many of the shortcuts. I really like knowing the shortcuts, for all these nice little things I would do. Does anybody know or something? Because I use LibreOffice a lot now. Does anybody know of a
That's a question for Google. Is there a shortcut list?
or something that would allow me to just
okay. I also want to show go to writer. One of the universal things, and not for just LibreOffice, is that when you go to your menus, all of the keyboard shortcuts, if there is one, are listed in your menus. So if I go to File, there's my one I already know, Control O, Control S, Control P for print. But under all of these, if there are a set shortcut, they'll be listed. So you can see here on the text, there's all the ones that we've learned over the years. But if you go to the web, just like Judy has a list of all Windows shortcuts, this is not a Linux shortcut. This is LibreOffice shortcuts. And so you can search for those too. Nope, don't close that out. Okay, so we want to talk about aliases. An alias is just a word or letters, maybe a phrase that can take the place of something else. You know, we've had aliases along with bad guys and good guys and stuff forever. And what I do, and I have learned, is that you can create these aliases, and instead of typing a whole bunch of stuff which you might make a mistake, type something that I'm not going to make a mistake, and then it runs that. We're going to take a look first. I'm going to see how it looks in the file. In Linux, as in Windows, there are hidden files. We smartly put system files in a hidden capacity so that we don't accidentally do something. And under the view, you have an option that says show hidden files. And so just like in Windows, your hidden files, don't let people who don't know what they're doing see the hidden files. In the hidden files is a file called -rc, and this is the file that tells the computer when you start up things that you do. And I'm going to open it up, and just to show you, we're not going to go into all this stuff. But if we scroll down here in this file, and I'm just in a viewer, we will find that here's an example of an alias. I'm just going to put Orv taught us a long time ago in taming the terminal that ls is the command to list your files and folders. What we didn't say back then was that ls lists those in black and white, or whatever color you've set to see. If you want to see in color, because remember he told us that certain folders are one color, certain files that are executable are another color, graphics, pictures are in one color. If you want to see them in color, you have to add to your ls a space -- color equals auto. Well, that's a lot to type. So what we've all agreed on is we all want color. So in the -rc, it says that if we type in ls, it actually is going to type in the background ls space -- color equals auto, so that you get to see all of these folders and files in colors. The same thing right here is one that's not used as a directory, dir, and we've had that in way back in the DOS days. It'll show you the names of your folders. Well, we like them in color. If we also go down here a little bit further, this is interesting too, that, wrong keyboard, you can see down here is some more aliases. And we have said that if you want to get more out of your list of files, that you can add some things to it. And now if I type, for example, just an L instead of ls, L is going to type ls space -cf, whatever that means. It's not important. But because ls is an alias, it's going to say I'm going to type L and then I'm going to add the color and whatever. So it's adding all of this stuff. And all I have to do is type in 1 letter or 2 letters, and aliases add these. Aliases are great because if you type something a lot and you could make mistakes and you don't want to, you can type something that's very simple and let the computer type out the big toughie. So all you would have to do would be to add aliases to this file. Like you see right down here below me, it says they've added some more aliases, the LL, the LA, the L. So you could add any alias you want. But then we learned that if you have to reinstall either the bash RC file or your whole operating system, it's going to put in the original bash RC, which doesn't include your customized aliases. So what we do now is we say you're going to make another folder or another file in your computer, because bash RC knows that people make another file called bash aliases. And so once bash runs, it will also look at your aliases and use those. If you have to reinstall the bash RC or your operating system, your bash aliases won't get bothered because they're in a separate location. So today I want to show people how easy this is to set up these aliases and then use them. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to be in my my folder. This is my home folder. It's separate. You can see there's already a bash history, bash logout. There's that bash RC. They're all got dots, and dots is what makes them invisible when you turn it off. So I'm just going to do a right click, and this is where I'm going to create a blank document. And this is neat because I can remember all the times in Windows, you've got to go to the word processor, create a file, save the file, and then you can add to it later. Here, I don't have to open up a file, a program. I just say, make me an empty file, and I'm going to call it oops, wrong keyboard again. .bash underscore aliases, aliases. Okay, so now I've created that file that easy. I could have done it in the command line. My guru here in our club, that's what he would do. That's what Orv would do, because it's really easy to do. But I'm showing people you don't have to use the command line all the time. Now I'm just going to open up that bash alias, and this is where I'm going to add some. Now, one of the commands that we do a lot of is update. It's always easier and quicker to do updates to your computer using the command line than the actual update program. And the command that we use, wrong keyboard, is sudo app update. And then after that would be, we would run sudo app spelled right. Upgrade. Well, then I learned that there is a nice little trick that you can do sudo app update and sudo app upgrade. So you can do all of those. But then if I'm typing in the terminal, I'm going to end up maybe making a mistake, hitting a keyboard wrong. So what I can do is now I can say, I'm going to make an alias. Did I spell that right? No W. I'm going to spell an alias. Now, the next thing I have to do is I have to tell the computer what's my alias going to be. And I needed to come up with something easy for me to type, easy for me to remember, that's not going to be mixed up with something else. And so I came up with, oh, and I tested it out to make sure it wasn't a legitimate terminal. I'm going to type UPDG, update, upgrade. And I said, so my alias is going to be update and upgrade. I have to put a single quote at the beginning and at the end. I'm going to get rid of this. And so now I've got an alias for update, upgrade. I'm going to save this. And then I'm going to open up my terminal. There it is right there. Now, I could do all of those commands either separate or together, but now I'm just going to type UPDG. What's my password? Okay. And there it's going through the exact same steps that it would have done if app update and then sudo app upgrade. Okay. And this one tells me that I'm all up to date and it would happen. But if not, I could hit yes and update. Now I could do another one. Exit out of here. Just to show you how, oh, wrong keyboard. If I go back to alias, another one that we did, I'm just going to do it alias to start. Oop. And I'm going to leave a space here. And the thing was that we have a cleanup. Somebody asked once before about a cleanup. So we have two commands. Sudo app auto remove and sudo app auto cleanup can be run separate, or they can be run with the two ampersands there. But that's a lot of typing to do. And so I'm going to go back and I'm going to make another alias. And I came up with, what I could do about CLN works. Doesn't conflict with anything else in the terminal. So CLE, my cleanup one. And again, you have to put the single quote at the beginning or the end. Enter and save it. Open up the kernel or terminal again. And CLN. What's my password? And now we're going to go through the two steps of auto removing stuff that we don't need and cleaning up stuff. And you can see that it deleted. So I can run both of those commands with just a few letters. Speeds things up a lot when if you're going to use the command line, and you can use that. I'm going to show you one more that I did. If we hit the command host name, that tells me what's the name of my computer. And this virtual box is called VBox Mint. If I want to know who is my user, I can say, and this is stuff that Orv taught us, who am I? And I'm the user VBox. But if I go back into here, create an alias, and I call this one who me. Who me equals host name, and then who am I? Oh, one caret. And then I go who me I see. See, it didn't work because I went back in here and found it. I put a double quote. Now, go back up arrow because in computer terminal up arrow and run that. And so at the same time, VBox is Mint is my computer and VBox. So these are just examples of ways that you can create aliases. And if you are even more into stuff, you know, and I'm sure that if we get Orv back and we could say, Orv, show us some of your bigger ones, he might have a real long command that can be run by an alias, or possibly even a script that can be saved as an alias. And so all he has to do is type up a few letters or a word and off it goes. So there's two different examples, one for the regular, you know, intermediate user. Use keyboard shortcuts to speed up your work and make it easier. And for those who are starting into the terminal, create aliases so that you can quickly type, and there's a lot more that you can do. I have one set up that when I use my VPN with Proton, if my computer locks up, Proton VPN has an automatic locking device to protect your computer in case something is, they think it's, you know, trying to hack and they're trying to break in. And so it locks your internet, can't be used even when you reboot the machine until you kill the process. So I have a keyboard shortcut that I run to kill the process in Proton VPN, and I just have it set up as VPNK, so VPN kill, and resets it that way. So, and again, the reason we do it in the separate file is this file is saved in my home directory, backed up constantly by my backup program for my documents, pictures, music, and stuff. So I always have it. And if I have to reinstall the bash RC, or when I did this, I reinstalled the whole operating system. And immediately when I started up the computer, all my aliases were working because my alias file is in my home directory. So it was already there. So that's using aliases to make it easier on your command line. So something for everybody today, something for the beginner, something for the intermediate, something for maybe a little bit advanced user. So Judy, back to you because we're at the time.
Is all the extra stuff in bash RC needed in bash _ aliases?
No, just your aliases are in bash aliases. And you can have any number of those in there. I've just started my file. As I learn new things I can do, I add more aliases.
And I Googled Kevin's thing about shortcuts and found a nicely formatted list for version 6.2 of Writer, but it's up to 7.6 now. But I can't imagine that they would change any shortcuts.
I wouldn't either.
I don't even think they probably would add anything, but anyway, it was nicely formatted.
Good.
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
So
I'm
why
gonna-
don't you open it up for and see if we have any
Yeah.
live questions?
Let me get back to.
Oh,
real-
but
the-
question.
Yeah.
Are virtual box and virtual machine just different ways of saying the same thing?
No, the virtual machine is what VirtualBox makes. Virtual machine is what you are running. And I happen to use VirtualBox to make the virtual machine, but there are other programs that will make virtual machines.
Okay, because I was doing something in a presentation. I got called that I shouldn't use VirtualBox. I should use virtual machine.
Virtual machine is what you see in front of me, and I created it by VirtualBox. Just like
program.
the slideshow that I showed was a slideshow, but it was created by Impress.
Got it.
Yeah.
Melton used the VirtualBox when he did the presentation for us, and he showed us he was using 10. He opened another version of 10, a version of Linux, and a something else. So he was underlying Win 10 again. So he had 3 things in his, virtual machine, and just seamlessly went from one to the other and impressed the heck out of it.
Yeah, I would love to have a team do a presentation on VirtualBox. The GNOME has a program called Boxes. There's another program that Kurt showed us a year and a half ago when we were doing the Raspberry Pi VNC, which is another virtual program. And there's a newer one that's QEMU. And it would be really nice to have people who knew, not me, share those different virtual machine makers.
I'm still waiting for a bunch of people to say I'll show Edge, Chrome, Firefox, Brave, and all that good kind of stuff.
Yeah, have ourselves a browser buffet.
Yes, and Word, LibreOffice, and Google Docs. But then I'm a teacher, so those are the kinds of things I'm interested in letting everybody know about. My mother used to say, wish in one hand, spit in the other, and see which one gets filled first. It sure heck is spit when it comes to APCUG requests. Kurt has a question.
Unmute first.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
VNC is not a virtualization.
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
It just allows you to take and switch to different machines.
Right. And so we want another program presentation where we do remote access and be able to talk about VNC and AnyDesk and Windows Connect or whatever. Thanks for reminding me. I see after 2 hours, your brain goes, shh.
I'm surprised your voice is still the same.
I am too.
Carrying on.
I didn't even
that was another. We should probably make a list. It wouldn't make any difference, but
yeah,
make a list.
So open things up for anything else about the Linux. Like I said, we won't be here next month. During the holiday season, the team will be reviewing the survey that we did. We'll share that in January with the results of what we found that we are or aren't going to do. We'll see on that. So that'll be coming up after the first of the year. But we're open for any more discussion for the rest of 2023. This is it for 2023 in Linux.
Aren't you lucky?
There's my good friend, Andy.
Hey, John, great presentation. Really
Thank
enjoyed it. I play around with Linux, and I've been playing with aliases for a while. 2 things that I do. I think you also do them, but you didn't. I don't think you mentioned it. on your virtual desktop there, your VM desktop, you had pCloud. And pCloud I happen to use because it's great for sharing. If you're playing on one machine and you want to access files, if you want to try out Linux or try something on a different machine, or like in the case of aliases, if you're going to be rebuilding machines, it's a great place to keep files that you want to use. Along the same lines, when you're doing the aliases, you're doing things that the examples you gave were relatively straightforward. Every once in a while, I'll come across, you know, you do a Google search and you come up with some long, protracted command line something to do whatever you want, and it works and it's great, and you'd want to remember it. So if I'm going to use it repeatedly, I'll put it in the aliases. But one of the things that I do with, especially if it's an alias that I didn't really come up with, I borrowed or redeployed, I take advantage of putting a comment in the bash aliases file. So if you just use a hash mark, you can put in the date, where you got it, what the source is. You can put in all kinds of comments. So if you go back and look at the aliases file, wait a minute, I just type in UPD, you know, whatever. Where did that come from? Oh, that was John Kennedy's APCUG presentation.
Good suggestion.
It's just helpful for me, because a lot of times you get used to using something, and 6 months or 2 years down the line, you don't know where it came from. You don't know the history of it. Having that in the bash aliases file is has helped me a number of times. Again, great job.
Thanks. And we do that too. I've learned, I'm not an expert, but when my guru is teaching us, if we make a modification to a file, that sometimes put a comment in that we do that when we're doing the file that takes care of mounting hard drives, that we added this auto mount at such and such a date and put a name with it to do that. And it's funny, Andy, because I just did that last night. I had these presentations that I made on the big computer, and I wanted them not on just the little computer, but I wanted them on the virtual, so I could do it right while I'm in the virtual machine. And I'm going, oh, that means I've got to go put them on a thumb drive, get the thumb drive to switch over from the host machine to that. I'm going, there's my pCloud. So I went to pCloud. The files are already up there because they're saved automatically from that, and just put them down the machine. So yes, definitely something like any kind of storage. You know, of course, I brag on pCloud.
I think about pCloud Dropbox because, from my experience, they have the best native Linux client.
Yeah,
they're the easiest one. You know, you can go through your gyrations to try to mount Google Drive or OneDrive or any of the others, but Dropbox and pCloud both have excellent Windows and Linux clients, so it makes it very easy.
Yeah, and I have them both.
Does Linux Mint hide all the traditional folders like bin and sys, or are they hidden way down deep?
The files, the folders are not hidden. You know, if you go to the system, it's just like going to Microsoft and going to the system 32 or whatever. I can so long. The files are all there, but they hide important things that everyday people shouldn't get to. But the bin and the SBin and all those, they're there. But I don't even know. Cal, do you know, is there any folders that are hidden? I know that, like the bash files, you know, obviously were all hidden. But do you know of any folders?
In the file manager, they run the system. In Ubuntu, they do hide them. You have to use command line. But of course, they're always accessible on the command line. So hidden, no, they're not hidden, but they're in a different system folder. So you never see them they're not in the home folder.
Yeah. You know, and the other thing with those is that you've got to have the permissions to do things with those.
Oh yeah, you got to be root.
You got to be, you know, root. And so it doesn't matter that we can see them because some of them we can't work. That's the big problem that Windows people get concerned about, is that when I throw in a Linux live distro, I can access every file on a Windows computer without needing a password. That's what's good about Linux, is we can repair Windows because we don't have to have that. And that kind of makes people kind of a little bit nervous, the fact that they think they're secure and they've got password protection and all. But with Linux, I can get right in there and add files, remove files, and any of the users. But that's a good thing.
Any more questions for our wonderful presenter?
Oh.
Going.
And as always, we're always open for ideas. The first half today was an idea that came from my club, because I had somebody say to me that they just felt that Linux was just too much. And the reason was, he came to some of our meetings when we were doing command line stuff. And yes, for a new user, when you get somebody who's a command line person and going through, it is. So I wanted to prove that it wasn't. And so that's why we came up with that. You don't have to use that. So, you know, if you go ahead.
I heard from several people saying that they thought this was great that you were doing this. And I had somebody from the Olympia group, and you know, they have that Linux SIG, and she wanted to know whether she should take off work to attend. And I just laughed at somebody working, and you know, we chatted about that and everything. And she said, thank you. She said, I couldn't get off work anyway. But she was so excited that you were going to do this. I have no clue where she's been up until now.
Yeah, that's good. So any ideas that you have for Linux, and then Judy will always say if you have any ideas. And the other thing, you know, we keep bringing it up, and I'll bring it up again, is at your own computer club, if somebody does a presentation for your club that is a good one, tell us about it, because we'll ask them, do it for us. It's already done. You don't have to create anything, just do it again. And because as an APCUG advisor and reading my region's newsletters, there are some good presentations that are being given to the local club that would be great to expand out. But a lot of times we have trouble trying to get somebody to be willing to do it a second time. It's no big deal. I've done some presentations 4 or 5 times for different groups.
Oh, so, I've been doing presentations. I looked at one last night, and I started in 2018.
So, you know, if you have somebody that does one, try to talk them into doing it for us. We aren't asking for experts. We're just asking for people to give us some new information and ideas. Judy does a fantastic job of trying to pull together. I forget what we've got on for the 29th.
We don't.
Oh, never mind.
We'll have something.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking that we did, and then we've got the 2 in December. Yeah. So thanks so much, everybody, for taking your time in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, in the middle of the month. And on behalf of APCUG, thanking Bill for his help, and Judy, of course, and Cal, and Orv had to leave early. I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. Canadians, you already got the jump on us, and you've had yours already. So we'll have ours now. And have a great holiday week, and we'll see everybody at the end of the month.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
What would you like me to do?